The explosion tore through space. In the final instant of consciousness, Sumayan only had time to clench her hand. Mission failed. She was an S-rank Special Forces operative, and at the same time a medical prodigy, someone who had crawled through battlefields, long accustomed to blood and death. Yet this time the explosive device detonated prematurely, leaving her no chance to retreat. Flames swallowed her whole. Her consciousness fell into nothingness. When she awoke, the first thing Sumayan felt was a pain that pierced straight through her lungs. Cough, cough. A metallic taste flooded her throat. Fresh blood spilled out, dripping onto coarse, faded cloth. Her chest hurt so badly she couldn't draw a deep breath. Her heart raced erratically, her limbs icy cold. In just a few seconds, Sumayan made a diagnosis: this body is dying. She opened her eyes. Above her was a broken thatched roof, cracked mud walls, cold wind whistling through every gap. No machines. No cold white lights of an emergency room. Only poverty and the damp, rotten smell of decay. Then unfamiliar memories surged in like a flood. A remote, desolate village. A solitary old woman. No husband. No children. 2 barren plots of land. Chronic illness. A life barely sustained day by day. The owner of this body was also named Sumayan, an old woman standing at death's door, who had coughed up blood and died moments before. Transmigration. A Special Forces soldier. A medical genius. Reborn into the body of a dying old woman. Cruel irony. Sumayan tried to move, but the slightest motion made her heart and lungs seize with pain. Darkness crept into her vision, her life flickering like a candle in the wind. Without an intervention, she would die again within 3 days. At that moment, a cold mechanical voice echoed in her mind. Host. Activation conditions met. Multi-husband system officially launched. Sumayan stiffened. Core rules. The more husbands, the younger and more beautiful the female led. Increase in husbands, continuous awakening of abilities. The stronger the husbands, the faster the female leads, cultivation increases. Cold information flooded her consciousness. Sumayan remained silent for a few seconds, then let out a faint laugh tinged with blood. So to live, I have to get married. As a soldier, she was used to accepting the rules of the game. As a doctor, she understood one truth: above all, survival comes first. Just then noises erupted outside. The government officials are here. This round of conscription is brutal. But criminal slaves aren't even eligible for enlistment. In the old woman Sumayan's memories, criminal slaves were the lowest of the low. No right to become soldiers. No right to bear weapons. Only to be sold as slaves, forced into hard labor or await disposal. Compared to conscription, the fate of criminal slaves was far worse. Suitable targets detected. Recommendation: criminal slaves awaiting redistribution. A system interface appeared. 3 men. Same surname. Strong chi and blood. Talents far beyond ordinary people. Liu Changfeng, the eldest, tall and solid, eyes steady as if he had once held up the sky itself. Liu Changying, the second, cold aura, gaze sharp like a blade hidden in its sheath. Liu Changyun, the youngest, gentle features, but eyes unfathomably deep. 3 brothers framed and convicted, now criminal slaves, unworthy even of dying on the battlefield. All it would take was a single order for them to be sold, separated and destroyed. Sumayan stared at their names on the interface. Pain stabbed her chest. She didn't know whether it was from illness or something else. So what if she was poor? So what if her body was old and weak? So what if the whole village looked down on her? She had wrestled lives back from the hands of death before. She had never accepted fate. If the system needs husbands, Sumayan said hoarsely, then I'll choose the ones worth the most. Blood still stained the corner of her lips. Her aged body trembled. Yet in those clouded eyes, the steel will of a special forces soldier had fully awakened. From this moment, on the fate of a dying old woman, and the fate of 3 men stripped of their humanity, became irrevocably entwined. Before dawn had fully broken, the government drums thundered through the village. Heavy sounds echoed like hammer blows against people's hearts. Today was the registration day for conscription. Villagers gathered in front of the official courtyard, some crying, some cursing, some pale as ashes. Everyone knew go and 9 out of 10 would never return. But not going meant defying orders and dragging the whole family down with you. Sumayan leaned on her cane and walked forward step by step. Her body was so weak that a strong gust could knock her over, yet her back remained straight. Her faded clothes were patched beyond count, dried blood still lingering at the corner of her mouth. Many villagers shook their heads when they saw her. What's that old woman doing here? Probably begging for grain. She heard them but didn't react. Standing before the registrar's wooden table, she placed her trembling household token down. I am here to register for conscription. The official froze, then looked her up and down with open contempt. You? At your age? Conscription for what? Sumayan coughed lightly, swallowing blood, her voice hoarse but clear. The law says no distinction of age or gender. Registration grants grain. The official frowned, flipped through records, then tossed the token back. 3 sacks of grain per registrant. Her heart tightened. 3 sacks. Enough for her to survive the winter. But just as the clock motioned for the grain, a sharp shout rang out. Wait! A government steward strode over, eyes cold with disdain. She's half dead already. She'd die on the road. 3 sacks. A waste. He slammed the table. 1 sack only. Murmurs spread, but no one dared speak. The clerk hesitated, then lowered his head. Yes. A single sack of grain was thrown to the ground. Thud. Dust rose. Sumayan looked down at the sack by her feet, her gnarled hand tightening on her cane. 1 sack. 2 had been taken, but she didn't argue. She slowly lifted her head and said calmly, if you won't give the full grain, then I'll exchange it for something else. The steward frowned. What do you want? Sumayan turned and pointed towards the chained figures in the corner. 3 men stood amid scornful gazes. Heavy shackles, tattered clothes, yet straight backs and unbowed eyes. Those 3, Sumayan said slowly. They come with me. The courtyard fell silent. Then mocking laughter erupted. How? An old woman wants criminal slaves. 3 men at that. The steward sneered. Do you know what criminal slaves are? No enlistment. No soldier status. Just disposable slaves. Sumayan nodded. I know. She stepped forward, standing before the Liu brothers. Come with me, she said. As my husbands. Silence. Liu Changfen frowned. Liu Changying clenched his fists. Liu Changyun pressed his lips together. They stared at her, a frail old woman who could die at any moment. Marry her. That was no different from burial. Madame Lu Changyun spoke first, voice low. We're criminal slaves. Following you will only bring trouble. Lu Changying laughed coldly. Can you even afford to keep us? Whispers spread. She's mad. She can barely survive herself. Su Mayan didn't argue. She just stood there, back straight, eyes calm beyond reason. Finally, Lu Changfen stepped forward. The shackles clanked heavily. If we stay, he said steadily, we'll be sold and separated. Slave life is worse than death. He lowered his head. If so, I'd rather be your husband. The other two exchanged glances, then nodded. We'll go together. The steward stared in disbelief. You're insane. An old woman taking 3 criminal slaves as husbands. Su Mayan placed her household registry on the table. Register it. I'll be the head of household. Lu Changfeng. Lu Changying. Lu Changyun. The seal slammed down. Clack. From that moment the Lu brothers were no longer ownerless criminal slaves. They belonged to Su Mayan's household. They became the legal husbands of the poorest old woman in the village. A mechanical voice rang in her mind. First, second, third husband confirmed. Multi-husband system upgraded. Su Mayan closed her eyes. 1 sack of grain at her feet. 3 husbands behind her. Her hands still trembled. But fate had already turned onto a completely different path.